They hid her behind a screen. She mapped the bones of mountains anyway. Her name was Florence Bascom, and before she broke open rock formations that had confused male geologists for decades, she broke something quieter and just as stubborn. She broke the idea that a woman's mind would be a distraction. In the late 19th century, science was a guarded house. Women were sometimes allowed to stand on the porch, rarely invited inside. When Bascom pursued graduate studies at Johns Hopkins University in the 1890s, she was permitted to attend lectures only on the condition that she sit behind a screen so that her presence would not distract the men. Picture that scene, a lecture hall thick with pipe smoke and ambition. Rows of young men leaning forward, notebooks open. And behind a physical barrier, a woman listening to the same words, absorbing the same equations, the same mineral classifications, the same emerging theories about the structure of the Earth. They thought the screen would make her peripheral. Instead, it sharpened her focus. Born in 1862 in Williamstown, Massachusetts, Bascom grew up in a household that valued education. Her father was a college professor and later president of the University of Wisconsin. Intellectual life was not foreign to her, it was air. Yet even with that foundation, geology was not a field that welcomed women easily. Rocks were considered rugged, fieldwork was considered improper. Mountains were not seen as places for women to roam with hammers and notebooks. Florence went anyway. She earned her PhD in geology in 1893, becoming one of the first women in the United States to receive a doctorate in the field. At a time when the discipline itself was still solidifying its theories about continental structure, she stepped directly into its most complex questions. And then she did something even more radical. She was hired by the United States Geological Survey in 1896, becoming the first woman geologist employed by the agency. This was not symbolic inclusion, it was professional acknowledgement. The survey did not hire amateurs. It hired experts capable of traversing rough terrain, reading landscapes, and producing maps that would guide everything from mining to infrastructure. Bascom's territory was the Piedmont region of the eastern United States, stretching along the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. These were not simple rocks lying obediently in layers. They were crystalline formations twisted, folded, and metamorphosed by deep time and tectonic violence. For years, their origins had been debated. Were they sedimentary, igneous, metamorphic? The classifications blurred. The rocks did not give up their history easily. She learned to read them like a language. Field geology is physical. It means scrambling up slopes, splitting samples with a hammer, examining thin sections under microscopes, tracing fault lines across miles of terrain. Bascom moved through Pennsylvania, Maryland, and beyond, mapping formations with meticulous care. Her work clarified the complex origins of the Piedmont crystalline rocks, demonstrating that many of them were metamorphosed volcanic and sedimentary formations, reshaped under immense pressure over geological time. She corrected misclassifications that had persisted for decades. There is something almost poetic in the fact that she studied metamorphic rocks. Rocks transformed under heat and pressure. Rocks whose identities were not obvious at first glance. Bascom herself had been placed under social pressure, subjected to intellectual heat in rooms where she was not fully welcome. And like the rocks she studied, she emerged redefined, stronger for the compression. She did not confine her influence to field maps. At Bryn Mawr College, she founded the geology department and trained a generation of women who would go on to earn doctorates and positions in academia and government. At a time when professional pathways for women scientists were narrow and fragile, she widened them deliberately. Her students did not sit behind screens. They entered laboratories and field sites with the confidence of belonging. In photographs, she appears composed, almost austere, her gaze direct. There is no visible defiance in her expression, no theatrical rebellion. That was never her style. Her rebellion was competence. Her protest was precision. The Appalachian Mountains are ancient, worn down from once Himalayan heights to the softer ridges we see today. but beneath their rounded surfaces lie complex histories of collision and upheaval. Bascom's mapping helped geologists understand those histories more clearly. She traced the remnants of volcanic arcs, the signatures of continental collisions, the mineral transformations that speak of buried worlds. She became known, quietly but firmly, as one of the leading geologists of her generation. The screen in the lecture hall did not prevent her from seeing. It revealed, perhaps, how fragile the gatekeeping really was. Barriers built from custom and prejudice are not granite. They are brittle shale, apply pressure long enough, and they fracture. When she retired from the USGS in 1928, she left behind more than reports and maps. She left behind a transformed discipline. Women had a precedent, a model, a proof. Florence Bascom was not loud. She did not march through institutions demanding applause. She let her work accumulate like strata, layer upon layer of evidence, until her authority was undeniable. They tried to hide her. She read the earth anyway. And in doing so, she reminded the scientific world that truth does not care who is sitting behind a screen. It yields to whoever is willing to study it closely enough. Hammer in hand, I steady on the stone.